Hey friends, my name is Vanessa Socket. I am with Stanford Research Computing, and today I and little Pusheen, we're going to tell you about a tool that I've been working on that I'm really excited about. It is called Tunel, supposed to be like Tunnel, and it's an interactive interface that is Dockerized, where you can have management for your Singularity containers, and you can pull, you can build, and you can actually transfer and sort of move them back and forth between Globus endpoints on all of your different clusters, because Globus endpoints are really pretty much everywhere. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look very quickly at bringing up this basic interface. We're going to pull a container. We're going to look at some Globus endpoints. So to get started, we're going to be using a Docker command to run this container. The container is going to be called Tunel. We're going to map it to port 80 so that we can see the web interface on our local machine. We're going to map this directory data, because if we pull a container inside the Docker container, we're going to want to see it on the host. And then finally, the container name, that last bit, is called Vanessa Tunel, and we want to start it. So here we are in temp, and there's a folder called data there, just to let you know. Oh no, there's not, I didn't make it. Let's make that first. So we're going to make a data. So now we're going to start this container. Did it start? Docker logs Tunel. There it is. So we see that we have 5 workers going on, and we would hope then that in localhost, we have an interface. So as you can see, we don't actually have any containers here yet, and it's suggesting that we pull some. So let's do that. Let's pull from Singularity Hub, and we have to start with Hello World because I wouldn't be doing a good job if I didn't. So notice up here that there's different sources that I can pull from. I've selected Singularity Hub, but you can also select NVIDIA Cloud or Docker Hub. So vsoc Hello World, let's get that pull going. And you'll notice here that there isn't any button for Globus. So I just started it as a user that may not use Globus or have any things. So it looks like our image is done. I guess we'll look at it now. Here's our image. This is basically the output if you inspected it. And it gives us some information like the definition file, help, labels in the container, environment, run script, if there's any test, and then some Singularity Hub metadata that probably nobody cares about but me. So now if we go back, we need to figure out how to enable this for Globus. So if we keep going down, there's actually 2 steps that we're going to do. First, we need to create an endpoint within the container so that the container can speak to the other endpoints. The second thing we need to do is update our refresh tokens so we don't have to deal with more tokens. So let's first create that endpoint. And that's going to be done by basically executing a command to the container. Take a look for a second. So here we have, as you'd expect, a link that we have to go to in our browser to make a code with some random alphanumeric character for future reference that is going to mean nothing to me. So we're going to allow, give me that magical code, copy paste it here, and they're generating the endpoint, and it's done. Okay, so this is really cool. So we just made our endpoint, but we need to also update those tokens. And I'll just tell you, if you don't do that, it will give you a message in the interface that you do, and I don't want to waste your time showing you that. So let's copy this. And I actually think this can be done with 1 step, but I haven't done that yet. So let's call this cheddar cheese avocado. Oh yeah. So we're going to copy this code again. So again, this is giving us refresh tokens, and now we know it's working because here I have a listing of all of my endpoints, and the only reason I have that many is because I've been doing quite a bit of development with Globus, and I'm sure someone might yell at me for that in the future. So now we basically need to be able to see Globus here, so let's just restart the container, because when all else fails, just restart it, right? So docker restart Tunel, restart. is it okay, so it's restarted. So let's go back here and aha! So as you can see, we have a Globus button, and you can also see that we now have this container added from Singularity Hub. So let's go to the Globus panel. And here's the main view that you first see. These are all of the endpoints that have scope. My endpoints are shared with me. And as you can see, I've been doing quite a bit of development work, so I have a ton. Now the average user is probably only going to see their endpoint, and then if anyone has shared with them, the average user use case is going to say, okay, well, I want to find now my endpoints at Stanford. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to search for Stanford up here. Once I do a search for Stanford, here's all the awesome endpoints that we have on our clusters at Stanford. So one thing I've already done with these endpoints is I've clicked on them and I've opened up the Globus authentication portal so that I'm actually connected and active. So for example, here we have the Sherlock cluster. We're going to look at that endpoint. And also notice that I made sure to include an email here, so if a user doesn't have permission to access an endpoint, they know who to bother to get it. So let's take a look at Sherlock. This is the view that's important. This is like looking at dirty laundry. This is my scratch head node on the Sherlock cluster. And you can see I have, random folders, and I also have a bunch of containers that I've been sort of playing around with getting. And over here, we have my little local registry of containers. So let's say the first thing I want to do is transfer a container over to Sherlock. Well, I would select it. I'd push this button here. And what that just did is it created a task, which I can open up here. And I'm going to keep track of it here. And it has my source and my destination, and that it's pending, and the event log, and all that really awesome stuff. So we know that it started, and that will probably finish soon. Another thing I can do is sort of search. So I can search for work. When I do pull we haven't pulled a container yet. So let's go back to Globus, and the next thing we want to do, probably should make it easier to go back than having to search for it again, like keep a record of recent searches. Note to self, this is too many clicks. So let's go back to Sherlock. Okay, so now let's say we want to grab a container. Oh, did our transfer finish? Still going, okay. That must be an old one. So let's say that I want to now get this fireworks image. And so I've selected it, and you'll notice, if you're keen, is that a little button up here appeared. So I'm going to click this button and start another transfer. Let's look at this one too. Maybe they can race and we'll see which one's the fastest. So this one's going the other direction. We're transferring it to my local registry. And now, the way that this actually is working is that it's really hard to get some kind of notification from Globus. So the strategy that I'm using is basically checking for updates by way of when the user refreshes the view to see if the container is there. Stanford. Next time I'm just going to copy paste the URL. So, if I'm a researcher, I might go like, I don't know, get a coffee, make a sandwich, whatever. Oh, there you go. So it's actually done. If you look up here, this message says new containers added, Vanessa algorithms, fireworks, and that parsing of the special characters is really, really ugly. But you'll notice over here, we now have it added to our library, which is really cool. And if we look at our containers, now we have the container. And if we sneak back over here and we look in our data folder, there they are. They're just like magically there, which is pretty awesome. And I won't go over these in detail, but I already showed you the pull interface. The other thing we can do here is we can build, so it has this recipe converter where we convert easily from Docker file to Singularity file to Docker file, et cetera, et cetera. And the other cool thing that we can do is with a Singularity file, we can actually launch a build directly from this interface. So hello kitty milkshake. And I don't need to show you all of this because this presentation was mostly just about Globus, But what I'm interested in from all of you is what kind of integrations that you want to see next. This is important because it's a powerful way to really connect these disparate things and to make it really easy to manage your local containers, to build, and then to get them onto the cluster where you need to use them and run them. So if you have ideas, if you want to contribute, if you want to talk about robots, or just say hello to Pusheen, please ping me so we can talk about these things. Yeah, I think that's all for now. So thanks for watching, and we're not going to wait for this build to finish because I'm going to go for a run. So this has been screencast, my first screencast, I hope it wasn't terrible, with Tiny Pusheen and Dinosaur out.